What I'm just going to share with you very briefly is the foundation of ULP. We promote ethical leadership, and those slides, Spy, have you got them in front? That sort of lays down the foundation. And how I teach this all the time at ULP, I contrast it quite clearly. You know, contrast has got an effect of you understanding, improving understanding. So I'm going to contrast an ordinary leader versus an ethical leader, and just basically outline values that we stand for here at ULP and what we're promoting. And it should be on the screen. There you are. So, what does an ordinary leader, his value system says? First, the ordinary leader asks a question: what can I get? Now, this is a very important question, because I remember when I was joining the workplace as a young person, and I was still young, and I just finished my degree, so I was looking for a job in my family. You know, I once worked in a factory, by the way. You know, some of you don't believe that, but then I was a laborer, you know. I was working in a laboratory in a factory down in Alroad. And then as I was going looking for a job, the common question everybody was asking was, kule fem maraskoni sinkwana. These young people don't understand that. But it means, what can I get out of this firm outside my salary? And that is a very, very dangerous approach. And an ordinary leader also asks, what can I get out of this company? How can I get out of this organization? What can I get? Am I going to get a bonus? Am I going to get an incentive? It's about, what am I going to get? But an ethical leader asks a question: how can I give? Can you contrast that? How can I give? When you're entering any organization or place, the first question is what is it that am I going to give in terms of my talents, gifts, and intellectual capabilities, my heart, my hand, my feet, everything? How can I give? That's an ethical leader asks that question. An ordinary leader, and you see, I'm saying ordinary leader. I'm not saying he's a bad leader. I'm just saying he's an ordinary leader, you know. But we want to get ethical leader. And it measures their success in terms of rands and cents. In terms of how much bank balance do I have, how rich am I, and in terms of material possessions that we have. And that's an ordinary leader. I'm not saying those things are wrong, but the question is, when you are an ordinary leader, you tend to measure your success in those things. And I was very lucky when I was a young person doing my MBA at Wits. One of the leading figures at that time helped us to think through this question very well. And he said it in a very, very profound way, which I always like to repeat. He said, as a young leader, and most of you are young leaders here, so I've got a privilege of saying that, because I can see I'm probably older than most of you here. And now that I've got grandchildren, so I can speak about that. He says it's very important when you're a young leader to think about something that is higher than you in terms of your own purpose. And at that time we were doing an MBA, so he said to us, and it's a very important message, he said, I know what you're thinking about. Is that when you come out there, you want to have a better car. And he says, listen, let me tell you something. There's always somebody who's going to drive a better car than yours. And so he continued, he said, I know when you come out here, you want to have a big house. And let me tell you something, there'll be always somebody who's going to be having a better house than yours. And he said, you will want to have a big job. And he says, let me tell you, there'll be somebody who else has a better job than yours. So you get it? You're getting it? And then he challenged us guys, and he says, yeah, you young guys, and you probably, when you come out here, you'll be looking for a pretty girlfriend or a wife. And let me tell you, there'll always be somebody who's got a better wife or a better girlfriend than yours. And he says, you ladies, you're probably looking for Mr. Right, who's got a six-pack. Some of us can't even understand now what does the six-pack means. And he said, let me tell you, young lady, there'll always be somebody who's got a better husband than yours. And the message was, if you chase those things, you're going to be running a rat race. And a rat race is actually demeaning who you are. Because even if you win a rat race, you remain a rat. Are you with me? So take yourself out of there being a rat and have a higher purpose and actually get into a space where nobody can compete with you and you're not competing with anybody. And if you run a life, I always say you must run it at your own pace, in your own lane, in your own destination. And that's what we need to make. So an ethical leader looks at what significance am I going to make? That's how he measures himself or herself. Significance in terms of the people, the impact I'm going to make in the lives of people, and how am I going to develop people, how I'm going to make them to achieve their talents and potentials and really achieve their significance in life. And that is a more valuable measurement that one you need to put in. The third one, I'm going to rush very quickly, the end justifies the means. That's an ordinary think about later. He thinks about, well, it doesn't matter. If I want to get profits, how I get it, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to step on people's toe. And if I want to reach the top of the tree of an organization, I'm going to step on people's shoulders, on their heads. And on my way to success, there'll be corpses and casualties left, right, and center. I don't care. As long as I'm going to reach my goal. That's an ordinary leader. I get the outcomes regardless of how I accomplish it. That's a fallacy. That's actually a mother of all corruption. Because if your goal is to be rich and how you're going to achieve it, it does not matter. That's when you're going to go to corruption, you're going to steal, you're going to do all sorts of things. You're going to manipulate, you're going to commit fraud because your goal is to be rich. How you achieve it, it doesn't matter. But an ethical leader, the means justify the end. So how I achieve my wealth is so important, just like my wealth is. And that is a fundamental principle that actually, so we do the right things regardless of the outcome. Come close, lady. There's lots of place in front here. Yeah. Right there, right there. So, take this one. So, an ethical leader, think very carefully about the means you're using to achieve your goal. And it must be ethical, it must be values-driven means, it must be means that are making sure that you achieve these goals, and there is no question about that. And this is very important if you know that. And I've said that, I've said it, so many people have listened to me here. I said, talent will take you to the top, but character will keep you there. And I've seen too many of my compatriots, young leaders that I grew up since in the early 80s, and most of them, extremely talented people. And they rushed through to the top. They broke through the glass ceiling, but they didn't stay there because character flaws brought them down. In case studies that you'll be doing today with you'll see those names. And then ordinary leaders have got a short-term approach. Very short-term, very short-term, very short-term. And that's a very dangerous approach because you just want to take shortcuts, and the shortcuts actually gets you into deep trouble. But the ethical leaders, which is what we're promoting here at the ULP, have got a long-term view. Have got a long-term view, and a view that is transgenerational, a view that is saying, in my third and fourth generation, what would people say when they talk about me? Last time we were at the Mujanku, Gumbi says, if you do something that is wrong and evil today, you're condemning your next generation and your grandchildren. Why do you want to bequeath such negative legacy to your grandchildren? That message really struck me quite long. So think long term, and whatever you do has got long-term consequences. And then the ordinary leader prioritize gain over principles. And let me tell you, that reduces your value over time. Principles are so important. And an ethical leader prioritizes principles over personal gain. And his or her value continuously enhanced over time. If ever you see leaders that are taking shortcuts, even in their business. I always tell this story. You know, there's a restaurant that I used to like when I was staying at Kyalami Estates, and I used to visit with Verila. And I enjoyed that because they had good food. But I made a mistake one day. I visited it on a Monday evening. And I think the leader there thought, listen, man, I've got too much stock that was not bought over the weekend. So I'm going to try to push it on Monday evening. And he gave us food that, you know, when you start to pick up the food and you see this thing. And from that moment, we never went back to that. So what's the value of that business? It has diminished because the guy prioritized what? Gain over principles. And how many people did I tell not to go to that restaurant? The statistics always say, you know, a happy customer, tell only 3 people. But an unhappy customer, tell 11 people. So that business value actually diminished so much that he actually ended up closing. Because not because I tell people, but because he started prioritizing gain over principle. The principle of quality, good service, and food. That is good. So this one I like. An ordinary leader's character weakens over time. And let me tell you that you're here. You're going to be a successful person. You're going to be a great leader. Some of you are going to run big companies. Some of you are going to be very, 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 some are going to be ministers, some are going to be in government, some are going to be DGs, some of you are going to do great things. And I'm glad that there's also some people from the political structures that are here today. And you're going to be great. Do you believe that? Yeah, you're going to be great. But let me tell you, if you're an ordinary leader, your character will weaken over time because when you've got power, lots of temptations come your way. And then your character will weaken. When everybody tells you you're good, everybody bows to you, and everybody thinks you're there, and you do not surround yourself with people who actually can tell you the truth, and you do not allow them and give them license and opportunity to really tell you when you're wrong. I like my wife. He humbles me quite a lot. You know, I enter my house and then I start sending people around and he says, listen here, this is not a GEC of Sasso. and then I get humbled. And that helps, you know, just to bring you back to reality. And then it gives me a break. But an ethical leader, because you maintain your character, you'll be around in the next decade. You'll be announced in the next decade. You'll be announced for 3 decades. And by grace of God, we've been around now for 34 years, married with my wife. And for 34 years, we've been in business leadership. And I pray that I finish well. And that's very important. All of you, I want to pray that you finish well. And then ordinary leaders produces nothing other than bottom line. Ordinary leaders are very good in producing bottom line results, market share, profitability, very important things in business because we want that. But ethical leaders, they produce a legacy over and above bottom line. So you need to produce bottom line results, but you need to produce over and above it. So, having said now, there's an ordinary leader and an ethical leader. And I like to make an altar call and check whether people which side of the fence they want to stand. How many wants to be ordinary leaders? How many wants to be ethical leaders? You are at the right place today. You're starting that journey. And I thank you for coming on this journey.